know the broker's name, and eventually we'll get the account name out of California. We have a paid-off debenture from the company to the Kramers, to Geneva Holdings, the Kramers LLC. After the note was paid off, Charlie Mayo came back and made a nice call trying to buy the stock from the company. Okay, left a nice voicemail. The Kramers are notorious naked short sellers, unregistered toxic lenders under investigation at the Southern District already. All right, and that is a usury charge for interest rate fraud. They've been moving out of state because New York State happens to be the one clamping down on them. But they've been an unregistered.
This is the ham call.
And that's going to catch up to them. So I believe West is going to file just like Roger in the Southern District. And I'm sure he's going to bring up all these lovely things about the Kramers past and their problems already.
It might have been attacked, but it did die.
Forum. So there's a lot of things here that are very different from every other stock out here. And I just wanted to let you know, and I'll tell William, if I was short, forget the $300 million. If I was short the remaining shares to the stock, would you cover? You bet your ass I would. And get away from this car crash. All right? Because people are going to get exposed here. And you know what? People always like to stay the last second. This is okay with us. You can stay. No one's selling. The volume is nothing, 300,000 shares. And you can see the manipulation back and forth all day. They're hitting us with pillows now. They stopped driving it down. If they thought they could win, the stock would be pennies. They can't keep selling it down. They know we can put it all up. And when Bliss files, the game really changes because now we're on the clock for court documents and discovery. And discovery, everyone's going to be dragged in. And we're going to, Wes knows what he's doing. This is not someone just in the game. This is a guy here for 35 years. And you know what? We're not letting these guys get away. Anyway, I welcome William to the call today. And, William, I just wanted to ask your opinion about a document when it arrives at anyone's house or anyone. We all think that, we all believe that it's a non-event until it gets serious, correct? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, if you're talking about the lawsuit and hitting all these desks, it's a huge deal. And it might take a few days or even a couple of weeks to filter through. And I won't bore you, but it actually happened in my career. I was called to New York, and I can tell that story elsewhere, but in similar circumstances. And there's no question that the compliance departments and the trading desks, if they still exist, they're going to put a stop to taking orders, in my judgment, in GTII and any name that gets a lawsuit.
The one thing that I find that's really compelling is that for anyone that's first time listening to this, the depository trust named Alpine, declaring prime broker as a fraudulent party in the GTI naked short selling. How many crooked hedge funds do business at Alpine? Once the feds start looking and the court documents start getting in here, those rats are going to run, and it could affect many small cap stocks. If you just do a Google search about Alpine, all they specialize in is small cap stocks. And obviously everybody knows these guys have a very dirty history of doing everything wrong. Lord knows we know that they've had accounts offshore, hiding, just like, I forget the name of the company. I'm going back in time. I always posted with Sedona.
Revco.
Right. Revco was hiding stuff offshore. And one day they were moving it from offshore to onshore, and the regulators showed up and they forgot to move it back, and that's how they got caught. Okay, this is the type of stuff that I'm sure Alpine is a expert in, moving this stuff around and hiding all these failed delivers all these years all over the place. All right, but they got busted. The stock went to 9. They got a margin problem. I don't care if it's 1,000 shares or 1 million or 10 million shares. They violated one of the biggest things that you can't do in the depository trust is not have the money to pay for your trades. That means they're a weak party. They don't have the money. And at any given time, they could blow up and drag down a lot of players with
Well, you make a good point about the criminals, you know, the bad firms. The honest firms are going to stop accepting, or they're going to really look into accepting orders for sale of GTI or any of these stocks. But imagine if you've got a boiler room like the Kramers do, or Charlie Mayo's oversighting it, and they're all selling all these other stocks. If they get notice on GTII, and maybe that's a bad example, you got to use a different one, but even the criminals are going to stop trading in GTII. They want to be able to sell their other stocks. They don't want attention.
Well, I think that once West sends the missile, then Alpine has to go to Discovery. And like I said, the broker Andy at Westpac is going to be called in. We want to know his client, who we're told is short all over the street. That
Wow.
firm with a $4 million loss, and the FBI is there. It's just a matter of when. They can play all the games they want. One of the other things I wanted to say is, if they thought they could win, they let the stock go higher. They can't. This is why they try to hold it down all the time. The stock ticks up for a penny, and they try to mark it back down. Again, we've been doing this for 2.5 years. I reported it every day. When I had 20 people on a conference call, every day I reported this. And here we are down the road. We got thousands of people listening now. This is the biggest fraud in American history. It's everywhere. And if you just look at GNS, Roger's been fighting hard, okay? Everything on the line for the guy. He files a court document, and the short sellers try to knock him down again. They did knock him down, excuse me. They have knocked him down. So, again, it's just basically trying to send a message to Robin, what's his name, Roger. They're trying to send the message to Roger, we don't give a shit. We're too powerful, we don't care. Do what you want, that's the message. Until they start getting dragged in, and they all start to run. Okay, it happens all the time. Pat Byrne did it to Mark Cohodes. He caught him paying to have fraudulent negative reports written about him. They all threw Pat Byrne under the bus. At the end of the day, he paid Pat Byrne $5 million and had an attorney Goldman Sachs. Again, he had an attorney against Goldman Sachs to give Pat Byrne the information on that. Okay, so everyone stands tall until they get grabbed by their hair and they get dragged into the courtroom. Like I said, the parade of witnesses in GTI's case, besides the Kramers, besides Charlie Mayo, the broker Andy, Alpine, all the paper trail is going to be uncovered. And once they start lying, I can't imagine once the court grants this discovery, based on the DTC's finding. We're not getting discovery because we just filed a piece of paper. We have the highest clearing authority in the United States and the world informing of us of the security fraud against GTII. So again, this is based on a court document that the DTC has filed against Alpine. Okay, we're going to the same court, the same judge, and I'm sure the judge is going to have to say, okay, Alpine, what is this now? We want discovery. Show us the tickets. And that's once that happens, everyone's going to start running. Okay? So we're just sitting here waiting for Wes. Obviously, I had no idea Wes is filing on a case that is going to be able to tell people what he's doing. So maybe he was a little bit busy. But, the GTI case is coming down the road, and it's coming down fast. All right? So, Bill, as far as the other ideas, you think that market makers eventually will stay clear and stop taking the orders? I agree with you on that.
Well, the question, of course, is, Ham, when do they start buying back in? And I think there'll be honest broker-dealers and honest board, rooms, and even some of the criminals that'll just start buying in to get this off their books. It's a massive liability.
Right. And I always tell people, if we say 300 million, break it down to 5 million. They don't cover anything. Just getting here today, looking around, no one's asking for this. There's not one failed to deliver. We've been yelling for 2.5 years. We have proof from the depository trust, and no one covered the share. As a matter of fact, they're selling some more. They sold it on 600,000 yesterday. Sorry, unique in GTII's case,
There are no shares to sell. There's no confusion about it. There's no document out there. There's nothing they can create shares formula against or warrant. There's nothing. There are no everything they sell is counterfeit.
Right. And like Wes even said, for those who don't understand it all, another trick they do besides making sure they're using the market maker exception, they sell the stock as a long sell. So in your account, when you go to hit a button on your computer, your firm won't take your order. If I go hit my Fidelity account and I sell 10,000 IBM long, they won't accept it because I don't own the shares. These guys call up their broker friends to sell the stock, and the broker would say to them, "Hey, the Morgan Stanley guys said, share and tell. As long as I got the order and you're paying the commission, I ask, do you have the stock? Yes, and they don't ask any other questions." That's what they do, and that's so they sell it as a long also. That these guys will just not marking it as a borrow. They sell it as a long sale. All right, so I think Wes is getting ready. I believe it. I heard it was coming last week. I can't time it. I've been hearing the lawsuit. Now, one of the things I wanted to discuss with you is the idea of issuing a special dividend off the proceeds of the lawsuit. So let me just give you my point, and then you can answer it. When issuing a dividend on the proceeds of a lawsuit, number one, everyone's going to say the same thing. A lawsuit's going to take a long time, blah, 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 blah. We all got that. Okay? And if you say, well, it's not going to be worth anything, TD Bank was just caught with a fraud and had to pay $1.2 billion. Imagine catching 5 of these firms, and GTI collects $5 billion, and you actually have a coupon for a percentage of that. So that coupon could become very valuable. And you know what? When these things do pay off, we're suing the deep pockets and not a guy that's just going to be out of bankruptcy or ghosts. So again, the proceeds of a lawsuit, okay, it's going to take time. We all agree on that. But the actual dividend will be in the shape of a bearer bond. For all those people that are not old enough, a bearer bond is like a physical cert or a physical coupon that goes into your hand, your physical hand in your name. And if the company does win, you show with your coupon, so you have 10,000 shares, you'll get 10,000 coupons, whatever it is, and you may get $200,000 for it. But if you don't have the coupon, you don't get anything. Okay, so that is the beauty of a bearer bond or the special dividend that we've designed to give out. And the lawsuit, which is filed and just posted on to Roger, that's what he should do the same thing. He filed a lawsuit, announced the special dividend as a coupon of the lawsuit. This way the shareholders, we force the issue now. Everybody wants to get a record date, and everybody has to get their dividend on the record date. We can give those out on upstream. I already spoke with them about this. Okay, the distribution will be there. The brokerage firms, the DTC, no one can give you an IOU transfer rate. Everything has to be posted on upstream. They'll get the coupons. They'll give them out to the shareholders of record. If you're not a shareholder record, you get nothing. So it's another game of musical chairs. Bill, any thoughts on that? Did I miss anything?
Well, I think it's brilliant, and as you know, GTII has been trying many of these, and this will be one, then there'll be another, and there'll be another. The first time the back offices are confused, and then they realize the import of it. The next time, when the news is announced, the stocks will go up. But remember, not to get, just to quickly point out, in the case of MMTLP, there's 105 broker-dealers. Wall Street's not monolithical. And there's a lot of those broker-dealers don't want to be in the situation. And so as GTII issues these, and particularly what you just described, it could start causing buy-ins in some of the other firms. Just, we want to take care of this. And then it's a separate topic, but if you want to talk about it now or not, but I just want to fully back up something you always say on your calls. I was always trained, never trade in error. And when it goes to compliance or operations to buy in these fake shares or whatever you want to call it, just to buy in, they're indifferent to price. They just want to get it done.
That's what happened about 2 weeks ago when Andy out of Westpac got stuck with his trade. His firm went to the market and jammed the stock up to $3. Okay, they covered it. They took a 2-point loss on a couple of million shares, and they basically got defrauded out of I've had the number 2 to 5 million somewhere, and the firm called the FBI on them. So that was an example of a firm knew they got stuck. The guy DK'd the trade, meaning he walked away from it, and the broker got stuck. Now, the broker's under investigation to see if he had anything to do with it. So he's got a big problem now because he has the FBI down his throat. The brokerage firm is not here to help GTII. They're worried about their own ass because they got ripped off for a couple $1 million. Okay, but again, they didn't trade as soon as they found out they were short, they went to the market and covered it. When it went to $3, the short sellers were still selling it short someplace else to cover the short. So that short wasn't flattened out. That short was just moved to another account offshore. Okay, so they let it drift up to 3, and then they shorted it again. They re-shorted it someplace else. Okay, so these guys even short the buy-ins. Okay, but when a firm like Alpine get the hook, a lot of these small stocks use these type of guys to play the game. And once Alpine gets exposed, and listen, like anything else, once everyone finds out you're the rat, everyone's going to run and pull their money out of there. And people have been pulling out. I know 2 guys that would do, my friend told me 2 guys that he knows that do business Alpine picked up and left already. Right, so that is what happened at Bear Stearns. It was a run on the bank. Everyone started pulling their accounts, and Bear Stearns and Lincoln both went under. So this is the same type of thing that I expect to happen at Alpine. It'll be a business that'll eventually fold up. We can't sue them because there'll be nothing there, but the criminal and the settlement of all these trades will have to take place. And they won't pay for it because they're going to say they have no money because all their money is stolen and offshore already. So it'll just go up the line at the DTC. We'll have to clear this whole thing up and take a beating for it. And that's why I think that there's a panic at the DTC. And I've never seen a company get their name attached to a big short position. I've never seen this. Pat Earn never did it. GameStop, AMC, pick any name you like. Their name was never in the spotlight. Not one public company. And
to take that one step further, it's highly unlikely that name isn't on top of every compliance officer, regional manager, trading desk in the country.
Right.
So it's going to come to an end. It's slow at first, but when it ends, it'll be all of a sudden.
Right. Again, they can look at it. Everyone on this call thinks it's going to take a long time. This is a different situation than you trying to sue someone for a car when you got in a car accident, trying to sue somebody waiting for a settlement. We're going to issue a dividend right off the back of it when it's filed. Force the issue. We're forcing the issue because we actually have the depository trust on our side and will be dragged in as a witness. Okay, besides all the other evidence that we have, which I documented every day for 2.5 years, I forwarded to the attorneys. Okay, every crumb, every small detail, down to Vertical Group, the market maker who sold at least 30 to 40 million shares, making sure himself. Rob, I forget his name, I forget his last name. But,
Schneider, maybe? Schneider?
I can't remember his name, but all these guys think they're going to get away with enjoying a great life, stealing our money, robbing, protecting the criminals. Payback is going to be a bitch. Okay, again, we're not going away. We're ramping it up. We have great shareholders behind us here. We have deep pockets that have been helping out. And you know what? We're not going away. We've all smelled blood. We can all see it. Okay, there's no way out. All the old past fails to deliver on naked shorts. They don't go away. It's pretty easy. Everyone who's long needs to get a dividend. End the conversation. And all those fails to deliver are going to pop up. And they did pop up, and the depository trust told us, never, I've been doing this 23 years, has anyone had proof? Go back to Taser, Krispy Kreme, I can name all the great cases. There's no proof anywhere. Volkswagen, GameStop, I've never seen any proof. HKD, there's no proof. No one knows what happened there. Stock went from 10 to 2,500, and like it never happened. Beyond Meats, Peloton, no one knows how big these things are. No one's ever said there was a short in any of those things. All you can see is the rumor and the data saying that there's a short. That was it. No public company of this day. Merrill Lynch and Goldman Sachs had burned for them, spent $30 million trying to get information. They didn't get boo, they settled it up. And the stock went from 3 to 128 on a special dividend. Pat Byrne did it. That's what we're doing. A special dividend on a platform that the SEC, the DTC, or the brokerage firms cannot touch, give you an IOU, can't create it, nothing. It's going to come from the company. It's going to look like a Willy Wonka chocolate bar, just like I put it up, the golden ticket. Only it's going to have your name on it and what the proceeds, what that coupon is for. And Bill, I just want to let you know, the 800 deal, which is scheduled to close April 1st. What is today's date? I'm blank. I don't even know. Is it the second?
Is it March 1 or March 2?
Well, I guess so. I don't know how many more days left in the month, and the trading days, less than 20 days.
Less than 20, yeah.
And the company's going to close out a transaction, which I hear is a tremendous business. Don't look at all the law firms and see how well they do. GTII is going to own a law firm. And I actually offered my services to teach the law firm so that when shareholders don't get their dividend, it's a field day. A monkey can do this court case to expose why people don't get their dividends. And the brokerage firms will not have, they couldn't answer a question if they tried. And, Bill, I'll just tell you, for example, E-Trade. Hey, I own 10,000 shares. Who did you give this money to? We don't know. How come you didn't settle the trade? We forgot. How come where's his dividend? We don't know. Well, Your Honor, we don't want to give him, $200,000 for his 10,000 shares. It's not worth it. The judge is going to say, well, give him his coupon then. Well, we can't. But then you got to pay the man. And imagine the jury standing there. Just imagine everyone on this phone. If you're on a jury and you hear that everyone's been buying counterfeit shares and E-Trade was selling them. You don't think that won't go for 100,000? It'll be 3 times damages. Because everyone in that jury will know that they own a counterfeit share. Think about how that's going to expose the system. Okay, so this is not going away. We caught them, they're trapped. They played their hand, and they tried to. They would go. They did what they could get away with it. And the company, and I'll tell you again, William, is that I've never seen a company stand tall, not raise any money, do everything proper, alert the authorities of discrepancies from the last digital dividend, the dividend they tried. The SEC blocked the Picasso, it blocked the crypto coin. There's many things that they tried. People don't even realize it. This company's been on the forefront of trying to expose this for 2.5 years. Okay? This is not AMC where the CEO got paid millions of dollars and walked away, GameStop, Bed Bath & Beyond, or MULN, who never fought back. This company has tried everything. It has worked as hard as they can without reversing, issuing shares, doing anything to hurt the shareholder. They could have taken money from Charlie Mayo. They never took it. He called them begging.
You're absolutely. Now you brought up something else. I wanted to say something on the law firm. But you're 100%. The thing that shareholders have in GTII is ham, and they have the management and the close people working with management have stood tall, and they're looking out for, and for some reason, they want to make sure that, and good reasons, they want to make sure that this traps the shorts out. There's no other management team on Wall Street that I would trust that wouldn't take the deal. GTII's never taken the deal. The thing I wanted to say on the law firm, I heard a term the other night on a space call from one of your supporters, and you may already know the term, is that shorts like Kurt Kramer try to seller box. They try to seller box.
Yeah, that's Optimuse. Yeah,
Optimuse said it. You got it. And once the 1-800 law firm is part of GTII, Kramer can't seller box, and maybe you can explain it, but they can't seller box his stock, and the writing's on the wall. And this will end quickly. You know, people think the lawsuit's going to be forever, like you say, but as soon as their lawyers and the risk managers realize that the consequences could be so dire, they're just going to go cover the shares, and the price will go up, and the margin calls will come in, the buy-ins will come in.
Well, the one thing that I find that's interesting is that as the court case begins and as the documents are read and the responses, if this stock is still trading and not covered, the naked short position could triple from where it is now. You understand that? If we can start showing evidence that this is going our favor, okay, real fast, I could go knock on the door of a C.V. Cohen or a big hedge fund and say, hey guys, there's going to be a bloodbath here. Show me the court document. And they'll read it, their lawyers, and they'll look at it, and they'll do their homework into the stock. Okay, so this is going to be a big boy hedge fund play as this moves out. Right now, it's speculative.
Yeah.
You'll see it. We have the DTC document. I've showed it to many hedge funds, and they've been accumulating it. Okay, but when it gets into a court system in the Southern District, and it starts to move around a little bit, these guys will see it and say, hey, you know what? This is worth the play because our attorneys can see it's moving to a head. They can start asking their prime brokers that, you know, a guy like Stevie has guys like Goldman, he can reach out to the biggest prime brokers on the street and start getting, a feel of who's going to take a bath here. And when they start to smell blood, trust me, those who get in first make a fortune.
Just do the arithmetic. They give an order like they used to give to you. Buy me 10 million up to 2.25, and they come back. We got it partly done. All right, buy it up to 3, and then imagine if the stock goes to 103 on them on 10 million shares. That's a big trade for a trading desk. And go ahead.
I've done orders that was so massive, and I watched them explode. I told everyone, I bought 38 million shares of Campbell Soup in like a 6-week period. And then I watched it explode, go 7 points higher. And I watched Morgan Stanley call me up and buy it all back of me 7 to 10 points higher within a 6-week period. When I was buying it, First Manhattan was the seller. It was a big mutual fund out of New York, a very powerful place. They were selling it. And once they were done selling it, the thing turned and ran 8 points, 9 points. I sold it all back to them 8, 9 points higher. Massive, 35 million shares, 36 million shares of stock. And that's how big these guys play. When they smell blood, they come for it. Okay? First Manhattan wanted out. We took advantage of First Manhattan dumping the stock, and then we took advantage of Morgan Stanley trying to bought it all back from me. It was a tremendous trade. Those are the people that I'm going to go to with court documents. I built the whole case here. It's ready to go. We need West to tee it up. Okay, he's ready to go. We have people like great holders like Tommy Wang and his people. Everybody's here. We're very smart people. We trapped them all. We all know it, and it's just a matter of time. Anyway, listen, I had a long day, guys. I did a lot of driving, but just wanted to touch base. And again, guys like Roger, keep your head up. These guys, this is what they do. They try to discourage people all the time. I try to tell people, accumulation is how you win, not spikes. Sideways, accumulation. They want to sell to you cheaper. Be happy to get it cheaper. I wouldn't want you to pay a penny more if you are buying it. You make your own decision. If they want to sell it to you, God bless you. Okay, you don't need to chase it up. Defending a stock at $1.50 is a lot easier than defending a stock that's $4 or $5.
Yeah.
Okay? Until you accumulation, eventually they're going to pop. One last thing, I just wanted to touch on finger motion, which has been under a brutal attack. One of the guys that owned a big piece of it was sanctioned by the SEC today. And I think that maybe he was on selling it. had friends that bought about 700,000 shares up to 4.25. And every day I bought it, we were buying it, and it was like someone was hitting us as fast as we could do it. Maybe this guy knew he got wind of, and he had to liquidate some positions, and he knew it was under investigation. And that's, because this time, to read the news on it, is fully funded, and the only thing I can think of is someone, and actually someone just found they own 10% of the company, and someone's still selling it. So it looks to me like a big player has been liquidating it, and I think we may know who it is. So we'll find out in due time. And then you went on the call, I've been in Finger Motion for a long time. I'm going to meet with management next week, and I'm going to go out there and try to pitch and see if they hire me as the IR guy for this company. I understand all that about the company, and I'm going to try to take over the job and fight back against these limited partners and go after them.
I wouldn't want to be the Lynn Partners if you become the IR for Finger.
I'm going to for them next. I'm going to stand in front of the building with this sandwich board every day. Thank you very much, William. Have a great night.
Thank you.
I'll speak to you later.
Thank you, Ham. All right, that was all. I feel like a song. No, I'm not going to do it. I forget who told me. Vince told me no singing. Let's go through the league. We'll go around the league. All right, hang on a second. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to be rude. That was well, that was Ham. So I didn't want to be rude to him. Didn't want to be rude to you. All right. So let's just quickly look at the quotes. GNS closed at 243, down $1.14. To me, somebody said it earlier. You sell on the news. The news comes out, you sell on the news. But somebody else's question to me about GTII, why would it be different? I think GNS was pushed up so high that the criminals saw a lot of meat on the bone and they can drive it down. It's like what Ham said at the last point on his call. When you're at $1.40 or whatever, well, let's find out where GTII closed. $1.39. There's not a lot of room to short that if you're a real short trader or even a criminal. When you're trapped like Kurt Kramer, you have no choice. But I don't believe that the sell-off in GNS was because of the announcement of the lawsuit. I think two things happened. Once the news came out, they tried to sell it down to make you think that it's a big ho-hum, bad news. Their crack research team read the entire lawsuit in about 20 seconds and decided that was a bad deal and they sold the stock. There's that aspect. But there's also the aspect they used the trigger of news to drive the stock down because there's so much meat on the bone. In the case of GTII, as you've seen over and over and over again, I'm sure when there's the news announcement, they will try to sell it off. I just don't think it's going to hold. The stock is too cheap. There's not enough room in it. What I mean is the sell-off will not hold. I think there'll be buying pressure comes in. They've already got the FBI going after it. This is a short squeeze play, and it's a setup that I wouldn't want to be on the other side of. All right, GTII closed at 139. I'm just going down my list, no particular order. COSM closed at 329. Oh, here's an old friend. LGIQ closed at 29 cents, up a penny, 21,000 shares. CLNV closed at 6 cents, and I'm an amateur technician, but that's a lot of damage in that decline in that price. But I bet when you watch videos from Avid or Arca, they might tell you that this is some Fibonacci retracement of roughly 2/3 or 72%, and we should bounce off here. I don't know. I think that they sold off this stock partly because of the dividend expiration, the X date, and that gave a reason to sell and scare everybody. But it was also the last day of the month. I believe Avid Trader's video that said this could go to 20 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents, 25 cents, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 60 cents. He said, on what I remember, he said, do not let your shares go inexpensively. Don't sell them too cheaply. So for what it's worth, I think you're going to be okay there. CRTD, let's see how it closed. Last trade, $19.99. Are you out of your mind? It closed at 20 cents on 1.277 million. That stock has had a heart attack, and it's laying in bed. The meter is going beep, 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 beep. But it looks like it's recovered. And maybe the low of a couple of days ago will not have to be revisited. And we can talk about that, but Having said that, patients, when they have a heart attack, if they were walking 10 miles a day, they start out at a mile a day or half a mile a day. So it could take a little bit of time to recover. Yet, there's a massive counterfeit problem here. So in a buy-in, it could still go very quickly. All right. And then did we look at GNS? We did look at GNS. AMC closed at 657, down 57 cents. I don't know much about that. LUNR just lingering from its short squeeze, closed down 82 cents at 1928. And remember that this stock, I think, started at roughly $8 or $9. It skyrocketed to some number that I can't tell here, 136 at the close. It might have gone higher intraday, but it's still higher than the 855 it started. So there's a little room to get out after the love is gone. How could you lead me on? Here's GoLogic, which was a little bit disappointing earlier, down a penny, 206, 6,000 shares. And then the last one I have here is MULN, 22 cents, down 0.01. And that, I can look up other ones, but that's the closing prices on the market. Yeah, 1999. Stream Benji, GNS sounds like a psyop. Oh my gosh. Everybody's having Scott Scheller's CRTD still 10 cents above their low before Christmas. Yes, that's true, Scott. And, you know, to put Jeremy's point that he made on Twitter, to turn it around to the positive, he said something like, what does GTII have? If you turn that around to the positive, it implies what I believe is true. CRTD has quite a few things, not the least of which is the OG collection, which in his press release, he said could be worth 7 to 10 times more than the nearly $10 million valuation most recently confirmed by a third-party investor. So, yeah. I'm sorry about your puppy, a heart attack. I'm really sorry, Susan. That's tough. Yeah, Richard K., if it goes to 1250, I would love that we all, I don't know, picked a lake somewhere, Lake Como, and we all lived there, and we could get to know each other, and it'd be kind of fun, right? Or a lake in Peru or Argentina or somewhere. But I want to see, Susan, you might have missed it, but Skinny Whale also had difficult news. It's tough. The dog, that it's so tough about a dog. But Skinny Whale's father I'm trying to remember if it was plural or not. I guess it was my dad that was plural, had a stroke. And so that's difficult too. I know, it is difficult. 1,500 shares is great. I've never been to Lake Como, but I'd love to go. I would love to go. Oh no. They poisoned your dog, Sean? So I don't know where to go, what the next topic of conversation should be. I'm kind of at a dead end. I apologize that I stopped talking for a while. I didn't mean to be rude, but I will say that what I heard, in my judgment, is very positive in terms of the FBI and what they're going after this guy, Andy, but more importantly, his client. So Camden, New Jersey, that'd be fine. Mark Maddox, I got it. Let me show it to you, Mark Maddox. And it drives me crazy. I haven't finished it, but let me show it to you. Every time I sit down, Mark, to work on it, it's like a spasm of energy, and then I'm drained. But here it is. I want to make sure. I just want to leave. I want to block out my address at the bottom, but here it is. Here it is. I'm working on it. It starts out, Dear Chair Gensler, j'accuse, and I urgently request that you initiate a Blue Sheets investigation of recent illegal trading in Global Tech Industries Group. And it goes on from there. And I decided to just focus on one stock because he's clearly overwhelmed. He has to spend, and it's, Mark, it's 7 pages long so far. And I keep debating that I need to shrink it down to 1 page. But the problem is I still haven't put in here everything I want to say. So anyway, Mark, I guess I would have to report to you that it's not really going very well at all. But I will get it done, and I'll try to get it done shortly. On Hell's Bells, I don't know, Jorge. I don't know anything about HLBZ. Somebody else asked me. That's a great average, 172. But, you know, one thing all of you've got to, wow, that's a huge amount to pick on a dip. I don't know, Son. One thing I was about to say about GTII, and we can't forget it. They're just pieces of paper. And as we saw Friday, it's also human beings. And so humans make decisions that we can't always understand. So next time that the stock runs, if it does, and I think it will, just use some money management, maybe. It depends. I can't give specific advice, but just take some money off the table. I mean, I can't tell you how much I kick myself. But, Son, to answer your question, I think the catalysts in GTII are the FBI. And when West drops his lawsuit, the combination of a notice going out across all the compliance desks, it's almost like a bulletin warning about GTII and these characters, and then you get the lawsuit for discovery. I just think the criminals will be hard pressed to crime and anymore. So it'll take away some of the selling, maybe all of the selling, and then the 19 million share order hasn't gone away. Alpine hasn't gone away, and the Ham and the insiders are still working their butt off to make it happen. But they are pieces of paper. And so we don't know what decisions could interrupt what we're talking about. So my mistake over the last 2 years has been looking at the glory and not realizing that, maybe there were some trades in between. But Son, I think my answer to you would be that I think GTII could run out of the blue at any time within the next 2 weeks to 2 months, and just skyrocket. But there's so many ifs, ands, and buts on that I'm trying to think of what would make it go down. I guess what would make it go down would be successful attacks by the Kramers or Alpine. But remember, these guys have sold 325 million shares. 325 million shares that don't exist. How much longer can they do it? Alpine's gasping for breath. Kramers are just one step away from the goose cow. Hooskow or goose cow? Hooskow. One step away from the gale, the jail. Pete the Greek. Yeah, I'm sure they know about it, particularly because I get a lot of text messages here. I think they sometimes watch this. It's not, and I don't know who you mean by they, but I'm assuming you mean Kurt Kramer and the rest. It's not the knowing, it's the next steps. Right now, the FBI is probably putting their case together, gathering their information. If you're talking about the compliance desk, same thing. You get a notice. I don't know how you manage your life, and better than mine, I'm sure. But I used to get things across my desk, and you could tell immediately what you had to get done by 10:30 that morning. The others, you look at it, okay, I can put that aside. It can wait till Tuesday, or it can wait till Friday. And I think that's where it is right now. When the FBI actually goes and arrests somebody, that's my point. The FBI isn't going to negotiate with Gibson Dunn or the internal lawyer Nadich and say, oh, and I'm not, I'm just quoting what they said on Twitter. Oh, you're just two young Jewish boys trying to make a living, and we'll go easy on you. Yeah, slap, slap. Why don't you just give back the money you made, and we'll give you a small fine, and just sign here, and it'll say that you're not agreeing you did anything wrong, and you're not going to do it again, and go on your way. And then Gary Gensler can get back to teaching us economic investing 101. FBI's not going to do that. FBI's not going to do that. They're going to go arrest somebody and charge them, and it's going to be hard hitting. So, yeah, there's a difference between the knowing and the dying. You probably know it a lot better than I do. All those stages of like maybe Susan's going through, the stages of grief. They're probably in the denial part right now, and the bargaining part, and the ignoring part. But eventually, I had a priest tell me once a long time ago on a family matter, and my dad and I went to see the priest because my dad really does not believe that seeking help from the psychiatrist is necessarily the way. Well, anyway, I don't know his exact reasons, but we went to see a priest together, and I'll never forget the priest said, if if you're someone in society that does not follow the rules, eventually you're going to run up against the law. Eventually, the law is going to come down hard on you. And that's what's going to happen to the Crames and Charlie. Well, Stephen Nelson, the FBI is corrupt. Certainly at the top, and it breaks my heart. The guy that ran the FBI and did that whole drama of looking like an honest man when the previous director was on his sickbed. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy, but that director, who I think got caught up in his, there's a thing that goes on, I guess, in human beings, that it's all right to argue and be fair with the other guy's opinions and expect if, for example, it's a 51.000% election, expect the other side to accept it. But there's also a natural side of humans. If you lose the election and it's by 1%, you're thinking, well, let's recount. And it's the same with this tall, he was the tall FBI guy. I just think he got caught up in his own beliefs that what he was doing was right. So bending of the law here or there and bending of procedure here or there, the ends, it's a horrible thing to say, but the ends justified the means. That guy, for those of you who are following MMTLP here, that guy went to the same school as Jon Stewart, and they may have overlapped. So, yeah, the FBI is corrupt at the top, but I have personal friends that work at the FBI, and they couldn't be more hardworking, more honest. But the trap comes, they have mortgages, they have kids, divorce in one case, so they can't afford to lose their jobs. So hence, you're feeling that the FBI is corrupt. But which FBI officer is going to defend DKing a trade and the felony of costing $2.5 million or more in securities fraud? I don't think so. I think the FBI will go after it. It was a couple of months ago, if you're talking about the sale of GTI. It might have been December. It might have been January, though. The loss was recent. My sense, Richard K., is that I've been on some space calls to the point of exhaustion and not making a lot of sense when I talk. My sense is not so much through my contacts, but through third-party analysis, third-party understandings of what Wes Christian is saying, and listening to those calls. It's working. It's putting pressure on. And that's why the message that we give out has to be so, you have to capture that message before they dismiss it. Everybody's busy. You don't want them to dismiss it that, oh, you're just speculating. Oh, you're a Bernie bro. Oh, you're a Reddit bro, or whatever it is. Oh, you're a meme stock trader. oh, you should have known better. You were trying to make money in the over-the-counter markets. You don't want that message, but I think it's having an effect. Big Al, nobody got to Madoff. His sons turned him in. I also understood that he went to one of his sons, and he might have been about to turn himself in, or he just confessed to his son. But that's a classic case of a guy making 2% a month, and everybody's making their fees, and no one wanted to look too hard. And that's what's going on with Wall Street with this kind of criming. No one wants to look too hard, but the lawsuit and the FBI makes them look. Hey, Jennifer, how are you? I know it's terrible that his son killed himself. It's terrible. What shouldn't you talk about anymore? You guys, I feel left out of your very interesting conversation. Yeah, there you go, DC 777. When they do move, it's all over. They will have overwhelming evidence. Couldn't agree. What the hell is CTII? Did I say CTII? Gulp? I meant GTII. I apologize. Jillian Daly. No, not another. Why Tucker? I just saw a clip is all. I just joined your chat. Please, a few sentences about Janice Paulson. I just joined your chat. Please, a few sentences about MMTLP and CRTD. Also, is CTII in worse shape than MMTLP? I assume you mean GTII. Sure, so let me just think. MMTLP, CRT, and GTII. I can do that. There was something. GTII could be the last squeeze, but you might have more than one before it stops. Mark, yes. By the way, Mark, this is a good question. How long do we have to wait for the FBI to conduct a case? They don't move quickly. This is true, and neither does the law, but I'll tell you who does move quickly is Wall Street. both when they cover errors, but also when they smell the opportunity to profit from somebody else's misfortune. It moves very, very quickly. And just imagine, you remember that movie, The Big Short? The cockiness of that guy on stage with Mark Baum. I think it was Mark Baum. Mark Baum said, boom. And the guy said, well, why should we be? Well, I'm not worried. In fact, when I leave, I'm going to be buying more shares of whatever stock it was, Morgan Stanley or Shearson or whoever it was. And Mark, after his speech, Mark said, are you still going to do that once you know that your stock is down 40 points while you were speaking? That was before cell phones, I think, or at least before that guy had a cell phone. So it can happen really quickly. My point being that when that gentleman, whoever it was speaking for Wall Street in the movie, went to work, he was all cocky and confident that his bank stock price was strong and secure. But in a day, they destroyed it. FBI raided your house? Tucker, I'm sorry. I can't imagine anything worse. 2 words, good luck. I have a certain set of skills. Or as Peter Griffin said, I have a certain lack of skills. I will not be able to find you. I will not be able to track you down. And the other guy on the end of the line said, Good luck. Wish in one hand and chit in the other. Which one gets full the fastest? Ashcroft. Stephen Nelson. I was thinking of Ashcroft. Okay, Janice, I'm going to get to that. They stole your roommate's gun. Oh, Mark Ashley, are we down to wishing the FBI does something? No, Mark, we're not down to that. And Mark, it's not the best strategy to get into a stock and wish. So if that's the way you're feeling, $1.40 is not a bad price to get out. But also if it rallies a little bit, get out then. There's some other stocks out there that are not waiting on the FBI or anything like that. But Mark, out of the blue, about 10 days ago, maybe a little less, I was called and heard from 3 different people that a brokerage firm in California, Westpac, had just been stuffed with a $2 or $3 million, $4 million order because someone was selling shares of GTII to drive it down, to hurt you. They don't wait. They're not waiting. They just sell. But they decayed the trade. It was probably a DVP account. They decayed the trade. And the brokerage firm called the FBI because the loss was so big. And the broker, whose name is Andy, was about to go on a honeymoon. And he was so proud of himself, the big weeks and months he just had. It's bad. And so they called the FBI. We're not waiting on the FBI. It's just something that happened. And so we're not wishing on the FBI. But I'm telling you, Mark, it's some serious stuff. If you want, I could look into it maybe and ask my friends if they could stop the investigation and we could just focus on some of the other fundamentals and other technical things, traps that are being set for the shorts in GTII. I'm being a little facetious, but I'd be glad, Mark, to try to get the FBI to stop looking into it so we don't wish on the FBI anymore. I don't really think your framework of the question is correct. I think the framework is everything's moving forward that we've been working on for 2.5 years in GTII, and out of the blue, this massive thing that could change our fortunes happened. It has nothing to do with us. We don't have anything to do with the course of action the FBI will take. But if you want, we won't look at it anymore, Mark. We just won't look. We won't wish on the FBI. I'll erase it, and we won't talk about the FBI anymore, Mark. We'll focus on the other things that are going to make life really uncomfortable for the criminals, and I hope positive for you. Well, you guys, Sean Bean, have fostered the family, and Black Wolf. You guys are the family, and thank you for including me in it. They have good chicken at Rikers. Yeah, it's just really hard to eat it while you're bending over. They are in the hiding money part. Yes, Jenny L. They're moving money around. Rikers Island. Let's see what Nick Jeff. FBI is not the SEC. That's all I was trying to say. We don't have to wish on the FBI. I think they can handle it all by themselves. Yeah, Tropical, that's one interpretation. The way the market makers keep playing, they don't seem to be concerned about the FBI or lawsuits. In the case of GTI, number one, they haven't received the lawsuit yet. And I'm going to guess they haven't received anything, market makers haven't received anything from the FBI yet. So right now, Tropical, they just think it's all lip service. Maybe I'm making it up. They're not worried. But the other way to look at it, Tropical, is that if they take their foot off the landmine, like Pat Burns said, they're going to blow up. They have no other weapon to continue to criminally abuse the markets. So it's one way of looking at it. The other way is, why do they go out and get drunk and put up posts that no one FUXs with us? Because inside they're scared witless. Yeah, Yucca Frida, FBI doesn't play games. There you go, Raymundo. You're absolutely right. We should have joined the criminals, but I couldn't live with myself. Jenny Ellick, it could be right. Pizza rules. I think pizza rules, realistically, they'll keep selling for a while, either because of what Jenny was saying, that they're going to try to move money offshore, move it in their wives' names, move to Florida. Yeah, and they have lawyers and they'll buy time. But what I think the FBI filing will do, particularly the lawsuit, there's two things. The FBI and the lawsuit, both are going to have the same effect. I think when the name Kurt Kramer, AKA, diagonal lending, AKA Power Up Lending, AKA Geneva Roth Holdings, AKA Dewey Cheatham and Howe LLC, and then Alpine and all that, I think there's going to be a real reluctance to continue to do business with those guys. And their credibility dries up, their ability to continue to rob in broad daylight dries up. And that, I think, helps us. The other part might go more slowly. Everyone might be right. Yeah, that's right, Nick Jeff. They're coming in full force. Why is CLNV always misspelled? Because I can't spell. Is it misspelled on my thing? Because I'm terrible at spelling, nerdy biz guy. I cannot spell. I can't even spell Friday. Well, I can spell Friday. It's Tuesday I have a problem with. Gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today. Per Fidelity, GTII float is only 259K? No, I would believe, well, it's possible. The float in GTII isn't really high at these prices, but obviously at higher prices, I think much higher prices, I think some of the restricted stock is free to trade. And, but no, it's more than, I would guess what I remember hearing, that the kind of freely trading float was maybe around 25 million. And it might have gone up a little bit. No rules. Who cow? Alpine, I couldn't find a website. I did look. Alpine is connected. Oh, you mean they're connected to like the mob, or to the Fed? That's not good. Well, Soul MD asks a question. What changes now that hasn't changed in the last 2 years? And I mean, it's a good question. Um, I mean, the most obvious thing, Sol, when I got involved, it was about 40 to 60 million counterfeit shares, to use that term. And now it's probably 325 to as high as 450 million counterfeit shares. That's changed. We now know that it's Alpine. We didn't know that before. MMTLP crowd are putting massive pressure on Congress and the regulators that didn't happen before. I know it's unrelated to GTII, but there's a spillover effect. The Kramers are in trouble, although you could ask, well, they've been in trouble before and they always seem to wiggle out of it, and you might be right. I think if I had to pick, and obviously we didn't know this FBI investigation was going to happen. But if we just stop wishing on the FBI and write that one off to zero, that it's not going to have any impact at all, we're left with the 1-800 and the Trento mine. And I think those are coming. I think those are coming quickly. In fact, I think the Trento mine could happen before 1-800 law firm. But that's a prediction, not a promise. Jackson, I told you guys to sell CRTD. Jackson 07, maybe you did, I can't remember. But I found Jackson 07 in my experience. People that are always negative are mostly right. Just to use the hackneyed example of Ted Williams, if every time you came up to bat, you said, he's not going to get a hit, you could be right 600%, 60% of the time, however you want to, 600 times out of 1,000, 60% of the time, you'd be right, you'd be a genius. Because most of the time, ideas involve human beings, and there's a lot of things you can't control. So I appreciate it, Jackson. You're absolutely right. And I think if you told people to sell other stocks, you'd be right most of the time. But it's not over. You are correct, and I've admitted Jackson 07. Admitted is the wrong word, or I've defined it in my own mind, that the trade in CRTD didn't work. As of Friday, when Jeremy said deals off, that's a busted trade. But that doesn't change the value of CRTD from here going out. And I'm going to get back to Janice's question. You should have joined Fraud Street. I'm sorry. Margin calls are a myth in the OTC. Well, you may know more than I do. I've told this story, and I think I did. But one time when I went to lunch with my manager, it was a drinking lunch, and I think it had some caviar. We came back. I think we went at 1 o'clock, but came back maybe 1:30. We came back after the market was closed, to my memory. So it was long lunch, more than just two people, but it was business, and it was celebrating, and it was I guess it was deserved. I was invited. It wasn't my idea. And we went to a restaurant that doesn't exist anymore, high end. And it was good. We came back maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock, VO Warrior. I don't know where you're getting that it's a myth in the OTC. One of my accounts was bought in for a margin call. It wasn't a buy-in, it was a sell out for a margin call. for a cost of $50,000 error to me. Even though I didn't pick up the phone, I didn't talk to the client. I didn't, to my memory, we didn't have cell phones then. So maybe there was no way to reach me or my manager. But they didn't talk to us because I could have called the client and made something happen. But the margin clerk bought it all in or sold it out. I don't remember the proper terminology now. It's so long ago. But it was a margin call via Warrior. So I don't know. That might have been mythical, but it hurt. That myth hurt me 50 grand. Oh, I didn't know, Gerald, about T1 settlement today. I'm skeptical that it changes anything because they don't settle any trades anyway, but maybe. I think margin calls will come. The real, I love this that Chris Daniels is saying this, Daniel, March 14 to March 24, 1618 when the Crester, Rick Brogan, fractals, I don't even know what a fractal is. 344 average. So anyway, let's get to Janice's question. Let me see if you had any new comments. I'm really apologetic to all of you for ignoring you. How much was the loss? To me, it was 50 grand. I can't remember, but it was the example of when 2 o'clock comes or 2:30 and there's a margin call and you're out. And in this case, I think it was a Fed call. You have, in this case, a woman. I can remember her. It was her power that day because it was after 2:30 and she couldn't reach me, couldn't reach the manager. It was her power to close the position. That's what she did. So it shows two things. They don't trade it. They just close it. They don't see if they can make it better. Because if she had waited till the morning or the next, I think 2 days later, there would have been no loss. But the other thing is if she had allowed me to call the client was in California, I could have organized a wire. But that's what's coming, I think, for GTII. Well, again, I don't think T+1, I hate that word again, T+1 will necessarily change how they treat settlement for criminals. Okay, I'm going to try to answer Janice's question. I don't remember, Janice, if you put more emphasis on the one or the other. But CRTD, wow, Gerald, crossbones. I talked to the broker. They said it was happening this month. They're just not sure what day. I don't know if Gerald is... so we hold? No, you don't have to hold, Chuck. You don't have to hold. You know, as somebody said, it's been 2 years. Maybe you just it's over in your case or my case. You just say 2 years is enough. I'm going to get about my life. If it works out in a month or two, good on them that are still in it, but I've had enough. And so you don't have to hold. You can get out. Forget GTII, Slow-Mo Joe says, and gives another ticker. Well, he might be right, but he also might be trying to get you to sell GTII and lose money in TRKA. I don't know. I don't know anything about TRKA. I'm not saying good or bad. Oh, and TRKA. So another guy says TRKA Mexican silverback. All right. Well, maybe we'll look into TRKA. I just don't know anything about it. I'm so paranoid. No, I'm not. I'm actually not paranoid. There are a lot of people that try to befriend groups, and anyway, I'm not being paranoid. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's a different thing. Just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean I'm wrong. Well, Chuck, the good thing about giving up on MMTLP, you gave up on it. You couldn't sell it. So it's a decision of no difference. If you give up on MMTLP or you want to buy more, you can't do either one. So it's a good thing, I think, in your case. I think it's a good thing in your case. It seems paranoid in this case, Slow. Maybe. I'll look up. All I can say is I'll look up TRKA. It might be the best story in the world. All right, Jenny, I'll do that. Jenny, Rebecca, I'll do that, Jenny. And thanks for stopping by, as they say. Janice's question, I'm going to say CRTD. Yeah, there you go, Darren. Didn't we go through this with a suggestion about COSM? Yeah. Anyway, I don't know where the ghosts are. So if I'm being paranoia will destroy you, I'm sorry. But I just have to point out it's a possibility. All right, so on CRTD, Janice, this is how I see CRTD. I think for whatever intellectual reasons and good argument reasons, CRTD decided to pull out of the agreement to be bought by GTII on Friday. Now there may have been good reasons, and maybe that decision was worth essentially from around the beginning of the year, having that stock go from 80 or 90 cents down to 15 cents yesterday, maybe, or the day before. Maybe it was worth it. Maybe I don't know. I'm not judging it, but that was the trigger for a further decline in the stock of over basically 100%. So we've had a massive sell-off in CRTD while the combination that was announced did not occur. But to be fair to CRTD's management, they have the same criminals spearheaded by the Lind Partners and Jeff Easton, and Benchmark Capital feeds these companies up to the slaughterhouse. And believe it or not, in the most recent filing, the Kramers also have issued toxic debt, what looks like to be toxic debt, to CRTD. So Friday was that was a real event, and it was out of the blue. I, for one, had asked in the mid-morning. I said, this feels like it's not going to happen, this merger, this acquisition. I was assured it was. Doesn't mean I don't blame anybody. I'm just telling you, you get the best sources of information you can, but there was a decision made to renegotiate or to make a counter proposal, whatever term you want to use, and it busted. So that was the initial trigger to sell off in CRTD. But Janice, And there was to me, highly ineffective space call yesterday with the head of Upstream. He was trying to explain how you can open an Upstream account and transfer and all that. I, for one, found it, it would have been better if he said, we're ready to tell you the step-by-step process. We'll send out a memo, because it was totally ineffective. But Jenny, with Janice, with CRTD, I think that last trade was a busted trade. It round tripped. And I think that's just the facts, Jack. And so now you have a decision, Janice, in CRTD. Do I sell? Do I buy more? Or do I hold? And by the way, holding is a very similar decision to buying, obviously. So in those three choices you also have the further choice. Am I going to trade it out now? Or am I going to turn it into an investment? But it's a new decision. It is a new decision. And to go to someone's point, well, I guess we just hold. No, you don't have to hold. You can sell. CRTD got as low, I think, as 14 or 15 cents. It came up, and now it's at 20 cents on the close. I think as a trade, Tupacopolis, thanks for the $2. That'll buy half a cup of coffee. I appreciate it. I'm just kidding. Have you seen the short interest in TRKA? It's another love. TKO, 97%. That's pretty good. Doesn't mean it's going to squeeze right away. But I'll look at it. I wrote down TRKA right here. I'll write 97% underneath it. All right, NJ, I want to hear John Berta. I tried, by the way, there's no A in his name. It's BRDA. But I'm sure that was spell check. Tuck T, Berta, what a scammer. Another POS. Another love TKO. Thanks, Tuck T. What I like about your post there, Tuck T, is the analysis that went in them. And that you could share that idea with us. I know it took courage. I admire you for that. But then you've gone a little bit further and you've explained why. I really appreciate it. I guess the first one is, Berta, what a scammer. And the reason is he's another POS. And I appreciate that, Tuck T. I'm going to, you know what, Tuck T? I think based on that, I'm going to change my whole mind. I think everyone should get out of MMTLP. But luckily, we can't. Luckily, we can't. We can't do anything. So thanks for the advice, Tuck T. But Janice, on CRTD, the choice now is, do I hold, buy, or sell, or some combo? And he's a convicted pump dumper. You better back that one up, boy. You better back that one up. Well, girl, my little sister had a gym teacher, and she was arguing. She told the whole class to run laps. She said, well, girl, now you better run. I'll tell you one thing, Tuck T, you better be able to back that up. That is not only slander, it's libel. Remember that. When you put it in writing, it's libel, and there's consequences. I'll just take a picture of it for my time frame. I have no knowledge, Tuck T, that he is a convicted, so anyway. Oh, American Century Pallet Inc., John Berta? Let me write it down. I'll look it up. In fairness, I asked you a question. I'll look it up. American Century Pallet Inc. There's nothing wrong with selling. There's nothing wrong with selling. But Raymundo, he was sued for $900K. That's not what Tuck T said. He said he was a convicted. Why did he sell? Why does anyone sell? Why did you sell? Liquidity. Yeah, I'll try to get to that, Tom. Tiering your price exits. TRKA started moving like crazy. Shorts are panicking, Paul Funston says. Right now, I can't wait to publish tonight's video. How do we find your video, Paul Funston? Because I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Do some D&D, he's a bad actor. Tuck T, are you saying that Kurt Kramer isn't a bad actor? Come on. Tuck T sold the taboo MMTLP. So what? He owns a shitload of it. Convicted, that's what I'm saying. Convicted pump and dumper. Convicted. I don't see any conviction, Tuck T. Where to start? All right, I'm going to move on from Tuck T. Convicted is, show it. Show it. Convicted. Oh, you're watching them. All right, Paul. Yeah, I'd like to see it too, particularly since so many of you are enthusiastic. All right, so Janice, I'm so sorry. I got distracted. With CRTD, if you use the OTC markets, could the skies be any bluer than they are? Could the kiss be any sweeter? All right, here we go. OTC markets. OTC markets. Takes a while to come up, so let's just, okay, there it is. CRTD, Janice. CRTD. Closed at $19.99. Are you out of your mind? You go to OTC markets. That's where it closed. But down here, you scroll sideways if you're using your phone. If you're using your computer, it'll be up on top. You go to security details. And it's gone up even in keeps shares 80,500,000. 80,500,000. Okay, that's one thing, Janice. 80,500,000. We'll write that down. 80,500,000. That is our denominator. And then we'll check, we can use this same service. We'll check the recent news release. Of 227. Here it is. Created, provides update on special dividend and action on investigation into illegal short selling. I don't want to read the whole thing. I just want to get to the point I'm trying to make here. Estimates of the OG collection and its intellectual property have ranged from a pre-money valuation of $10 million to a potential of 7 to 10 times that estimate. That's going to be distributed to people that own shares of GTII. Okay, so take 10 million and multiply it by 1x, that's 10 million, right? So 10 million, Janice, divided by 80,500,000 gives you 12 cents a share, Janice, in CRTD. Now, the OG collection has been dismissed as porn, but it's not. It's the intellectual property. It is Bob Guccione's, some of his collection, but very tame. But it's also other icons. Some of the pictures are boring, whatever. But it's got a staff, it's got a team, and it was originally intended to be spun off as an over-the-counter company, standalone. It's now going to be spun out on Upstream as I believe as an operating company, as a trading security on Upstream. So Janice, you have an option. Move all of your shares of CRTD to Upstream and be, without any work on your part, be guaranteed to get the distribution of the OG collection, which will be worth almost 12.5 cents a share at that $10 million valuation, and it'll trade on Upstream. Well, let's use, for sake of argument, you can handicap it however you want, but let's use 10x. I just read the press release to you. Let's use 10x. So you can handicap it. So we'll use 12.5 cents a share, but let's just use the press release. He said it could be worth as much as 10 times. He used a lower number, but I'm just trying to be simplistic. All right, times 10. It's $1.24. Now, I admit to you, Janice, that's a massive upside, and it, slip between cup and lip. But he put it in a press release, and he can go to jail for putting things in press releases. Tuck T and the Kramers, they don't go to jail for saying anything. And luckily we don't either. But a CEO has to back it up. So anyway, the point is, Janice, if you own your shares of CRTD now, or you buy new ones, you're paying 20 cents. Yes, the one OG collection distribution right now is worth a lower number than your share price. But it's one of many divisions they have and one of many distributions he intends to make. So you think to yourself, all right, it's 20 cents. I could sell it here. And I could wait because I think the record date's going to be end of March, even in April. I could wait and try to buy it back then. And that's a decision. Makes a lot of sense to me. But you might pay more by then. Or you wait and just ride it out, or you buy more. Those are all decisions you have to make. But at some point in the next 60 days, there'll be a record date for that OG collection distribution on Upstream. It starts out being worth 12 cents a share. Now, this 80 million shares keeps seeming to go up. If you want to handicap it further, pretend there's 100 million shares outstanding. Then the numbers are, it's worth 10 cents a share right now, and it could be worth $1 a share at its peak, based on the press released announcement of potential value, or somewhere in between. So anyway, that's one distribution. So is that valuable? Might be. Is it a reason to sell the company? Might be. I don't know. But I would say right now, you stand to receive, it's 20 cents, you stand to receive a distribution worth at least 10 cents within the next 60 days. Now, that also could have the impact, because Jeremy's worked in the back offices, ran a prime broker, it could have an impact of creating the short squeeze we're looking for. So then you have the dilemma, Janice. Do I want to keep my CRTD at Fidelity rather than switch it over to, or part of it over to upstream, because I want to participate in the short squeeze? Yeah, maybe you just keep it there. Well, what happens then, Janice? Even though the guy couldn't explain it, you're going to get a notice. Fidelity will stuff your account with a thank you, Tupa Coppolips, for the additional $2. Now I can buy 1 cup of coffee. Anyway, Tupa Coppolips is saying that TRKA now has 106% short interest. And that's pretty powerful. That's pretty powerful. Carlos, it's not my recommendation, Carlos. I'm not saying go to TRKA. I'm suggesting to you that, in fact, you have to be careful. But a lot of people have brought it up, so I'll look at it. I'm not recommending you get out of GTII. Right now, I'm talking about CRTD, and I'll get to my point for Janice. Janice, I think my summary of it is, if you have a choice to sell it, I don't think that's the right choice. It's already too late. I think you could buy some more here, but hold some cash in reserve, buy a partial position here, because it might go to 15 cents. It might go to 7 cents. It might go to 4 cents where it started. Jeremy is showing perhaps excellent intellectual decision making, but it's not matching up with both the buy and sell demand, real demand for his stock, and it's not matching up with what it continues to be criminal manipulation of the price of his shares. So if you're going to buy some, if you're going to sell some, that's your decision. I don't recommend it now. It's already too late, in my opinion. If you're going to buy some, don't buy it all here. Buy a bit, buy half, and then bid for it lower at 15 cents, 10 cents, 7 cents, 4 cents, whatever. Then, if you buy it, your next choice is, Janice, am I buying it for a trade? I would think, other than the manipulation that's going on, I think there's going to be a snapback rally in CRTD, and maybe it's 26 cents, maybe it's 30 cents, maybe it's 40 cents, and maybe that's your trade. Maybe you take advantage of that rally and get out of it and just move on in life. I don't think there's any evidence that Jeremy's not going to make complicated decisions again in the future. On the other hand, I do believe it when he says with a lot of conviction, he wants to hurt the effing shorts, and he knows how to do it. But anyway, that's the trade. Now, what I would suggest, and this is how I think I'm going to do it, I'm going to treat it like an investment. And what I mean by that is just put it out of my mind. Hold this stock. Say it's going to take 9 months, 12 months. Now, Janice, the only other decision I already said is if you leave the stock at Fidelity, then it's going to require some phone calls and work to make sure that Fidelity transfers your distribution when it comes, because they'll put it in your account and it'll be an IOU. You have to transfer it to the transfer agent, and then the transfer agent will send it to upstream. And that'll be a battle to be the to get it's like musical chairs. You'll be trying to get one of the only seats available. But that makes sense, because then I'm not saying, by the way, the short squeeze could happen at any time in CRTD. I still believe that. But I think there's going to be time now involved. And I think people have lost confidence in Jeremy, whether that's fair or not. Doesn't matter if it's fair. It's just how I read the mood out there. So what I think I'm going to do, Janice, and I'm going to get off of CRTD, is I think I'm going to consider moving a part of my position to upstream so that I know I get at least some of the distribution of the OG collection. And if I move 20% of my shares there and I get a 10x move on upstream, that pays for my whole trade. And I leave the rest in Fidelity. There's a chance for a squeeze. And that's, I think, how I'm going to come down on CRTD. He's working hard. He's smart. He knows how to make the corporate actions happen. So there's a lot of reasons to let him follow his own vision. That's CRTD, Janice. MMTLP, I'm going to be quick because I want to get to some of these questions. It's the same old story. You can't do anything, Janice. Nothing. There's nothing to do. You can fret and moan, and not you personally. One can fret and moan about it, but there's nothing really to do. Reading the tea leaves, I think it's starting to look like there's a somewhat of a chance that MMTLP will be opened up for trading. I give that a 25-30% odds. There's somewhat of a chance that the litigation will go on forever and ever and ever. I give that about 75% chance of happening. There's somewhat of a chance that there'll be a gray market. I'm going to ignore that because that can happen whether you do it or at FINRA. I'm going to ignore that. There's somewhat of a chance of a settlement, and I'm going to give that right now about 10 to 20% because it doesn't seem to be going that way. But what I'll tell you, Janice, is there is a lot of movement toward awareness and pressure on FINRA to do something. And there's 105 broker-dealers in it, and there's got to be pressure on FINRA to allow them to buy back the counterfeit shares of MMTLP. I expect a resolution of some kind before the end of the first quarter, and I just can't tell you what it's going to be. I know you're worried, Janice. You see a zero in your account for MMTLP. Why is it a zero? They haven't stolen your money. There's no publicly traded price. They can't, what are they going to put in there? 1, 10, 100? Flip a coin? There's no number they can put there other than zero. It has no value in a margin account, which is essentially what every account on Wall Street is. In a type 2 account, there is no value that they can base the equity in your account on. There's no trading. But they have put a QSIP number in. They have put something there that is a placeholder. And that means to me that they are acknowledging that you are owed one share non-diluted in Nexbridge. Okay. You can choose to believe that it's zero, and you're not you personally. One can choose to believe it's zero, and you're never going to get anything. It's all hopeless. And I can't argue against that feeling or that concept, but I don't see it that way. I see it that they're trying to come up with a solution. But Janice, I've asked many people, what is your solution? There's 1 billion, maybe over 1 billion counterfeit shares stuffed in Wall Street's accounts of MMTLP. They need to fit into NextBridge, and NextBridge has already allocated their 165 million shares. I don't know what the solution is, but I don't think it's an easy or obvious one. So the fact that it's taken 81 days or 89 days, the problem took 7 or 8 years to happen. And to solve it in 81 days, 90 days, I just think it's really expecting a lot. Having said that, I think there's going to be momentum to solving this problem before Congress looks too closely, before the end of the quarter. All right, now, Janice, I've already told you can look at it like it's zero, but I'm going to tell you why I don't think it's zero. NextBridge is raising money through Roth Capital, 40 million shares. Even if you use $15 a share, which I think it's going to be much, much higher, they're going to raise $400 million. They're going to be able to drill their wells. They're going to be able to prove up value. That's good for you. The comparable price that the lawyers and Wall Street and any lawsuit has to look at now isn't 287 cents a share. It's going to be whatever Roth Capital raises the money at. And Janice, that's what I think the whole system is freeze framing on. They're going to wait and see what Roth Capital raises the money at. Yes, the criminals are going to go in through facade, pretend money managers and try to get the price down. But on the balance, I'm going to give you 2 reasons why it's positive for you, Janice. One is the insiders, John Berta and the board, have a veto power over who gets the shares in NextBridge in the Roth Capital offering. That is fantastic news. They're not going to, as best they can determine, they're going to try to not issue shares to the criminals. That is the fantastic news. Fantastic. Secondly, they're going to get an engineering report. And on Wall Street, the one time you can almost believe everything you read is when there's a prospectus. There'll be a prospectus. There'll be an engineering report. So the price of the shares are going to be based on credible values given by oil and gas engineering firms like Netherland and Sewell. Numbers you can take to the bank. So the odds of a good number now, instead of a criminal number, remember, everyone bemoaning it, if your stock of MMTLP had been transferred into a stock of NextBridge that was trading, they would have just transferred it into counterfeit shares. And you, initially, your NextBridge would have opened at maybe $10. And you'd say to yourself, wow, I got it. FINRA did its job. It's not zero. Oh, great. Oh, holy day. But then the criminals would set about selling. They'd get to their job. It's what they do. It's all they do. And that $10 would be down at $1 right now. And Roth Capital would be raising money at $1, diluting the heck out of you. So I know it's so easy, it's so appropriate to say that FINRA screwed us and FINRA stole from us. But on the other hand, FINRA has trapped the shorts, Janice. FINRA has saved you from the horror of blind thieves, blinded alleys. Of people ripping you off by taking what could have been publicly traded NextBridge, just like COSM. Everyone was excited. It's almost 10 cents now, 11 cents. Just like even GNS recently. Not picking on the companies. The criminals sell the stock down. That's what they do. That's all they do. Well, what's the blessing, Janet, as we all bemoan our situation? Me. Oh my God, it's horrible. FINRA stopped the trading and I don't have the money. Yes, I get that. I'm experiencing it too. But guess what? The point I'm trying to make. Yes, Bill, get to your point. The point I'm trying to make is that when Roth Capital prices the offering, they're not going to price it against the price the criminals got the trading stock down to. If right now MMTLP had transferred into a publicly traded company, number one, you wouldn't even believe what's going on. Number two, there'd be 1.5 billion shares trading, even though there were only existing 165 in the float, authorized and issued. And then the criminals would sell another 1 billion shares to drive the price down from whatever it opened at, down to $1. And Alex Montano at Roth Capital would be fielding orders from the criminals at $1 or 75 cents a share, regardless of the good news. So, yes, bemoan your situation. Not you, Janice, I'm talking in general. But also remember, the blessing of the situation is the criminals have not been able to manipulate the price of NextBridge downward. They haven't been able to do it. Now, I believe they could have a negative impact on the price by some shenanigans, smiling, running it through a facade and all that. But the good news of a asset manager is all facade. They're all like the Lynn Partners. We get 220% on our money. But baloney. They're not managing anything. So the blessing is, Janice, that MMTLP, while they're waiting, while you all are waiting and the lawyers are waiting, Roth Capital is going to do a deal. They don't have to price it based on what the criminals sell the stock off down to the price they sell it down up with put. The price is more likely to reflect the value of the oil in the ground and the hotted up demand for oil and gas properties and assets. Okay, the third reason to be optimistic is that NextBridge put out a press release, Janice, that said that they drilled 5 new wells when added to the previous 5 wells successfully. They delineated, I'm paraphrasing, delineated 5 reservoirs. They think they're not going to put it in production yet because they see where they're going to build out their other locations. They've discovered they have shallow locations. Shallow is great. I understand it's 3,100, possibly 3,100 shallow locations. That means you can get that into production inexpensively and build cash flow. They're probably going to try to build more acreage into the play, Janice. And then the other part of the news announcement that was terribly exciting is they met their drilling commitment to university lands a month early, or maybe more. So they're not going to lose their leases. So Janice, this is all good news. I know it's hard to feel that way when your account says 0. But again, I hate that. Just look at the zeros because there's no price the computer can go grab. There's no automated price they can go get and put in your account. But the blessing is when Roth Capital deals with the board and the guys that own 60% of your company say, no, you can't sell it to the Lynn Partners. You can't sell it to the Kramers. Well, you're going to sell it to, most of the big pools of funds that you know of don't. Fidelity doesn't invest in oil and gas anymore. But anyway, pick a fund. We're going to sell it there, and we're going to do it at $150 a share. So, Janice, I am optimistic not only for a good outcome for MMTLP for you, I'm optimistic for a number higher than you even dare think. Now, the risk is, Janice, you don't own shares of MMTLP. You own a right to those shares, and the system owns it to you. So how the system figures out how to make you whole, that's the debate that's going on right now. But in the meantime, the value of the comparable, it's like 5 people got the same contract on the house, and you put up your money, and 5 other people put up the money, and the seller signed 5 contracts, and you're in the court of law, and you're arguing, and you're going to the Realtor Association and filing lawsuits, and you're making phone calls. But in the meantime, the price of the house is going up. So the title company, once they figure out who actually owns the house, they're going to have to settle with the other 4 people at a higher price. So Janice, it is my opinion that at 89 days, it's too early to say that FINRA stole your money. It's too early to say that the SEC stole your money. It's too early to say that the shorts have won. Way too early. Way too early. Way too early. And the news is good at Nextbridge. All right, you asked me about GTII, Janice. The GTII has been under pressure ever since Thanksgiving, but recently the stock went up to 3. Ham thinks that was the buy-in caused by the DKO, the TKO, the Love DKO at Westpac Securities. Well, it's been down, and it got down to $1.10 on Friday. All of these stocks, Janice, were under pressure on the last day of Friday because they're trying to paint the tape to show their investors and the regulators that they don't have a huge margin problem and that they're such wise money managers. GTII had a body blow on Friday because when Jeremy announced toward the end of the day that he was calling off the merger, everyone dumped CRTD and they started dumping GTII. But guess what? It doesn't make any sense. Whatever you think about CRTD doesn't change the value of GTII. All GTII was going to get out of the merger with CRTD was Jeremy Frommer. He was going to be the CEO of the whole thing. It was going to be his ship to run. But what value would GTII get for issuing $100 million worth of stock? What value initially, right away? I would argue very little, other than getting the expertise of Jeremy Frommer. Very little in terms of a short squeeze. Yes, they would buy this CRTD. Yes, they would buy all these other things. But it doesn't help the short squeeze potential. It doesn't help pressure the back offices. So what real difference did it make in GTII? It was just a blow to the confidence that, hey, everyone said that was going to happen and now it's not happening. But there were going to be many steps, Janice, after the acquisition of CRTD, which would not have happened right away. There would have been a delay and filings and all sorts of things that we all would have bemoaned. But what's really changed? Nothing. Just confidence. Nothing really changed. So the criminals came in and tried to drive it down, pay each other as they spun their web of deceit. But nothing really changed with GTII. So I think that was probably more of a buying opportunity than a panic opportunity. But let me tell you, Janice, the negatives on GTII and the risks. The risk is always, on all of these stocks, you can lose everything. The risk always is the markets can close and, an asteroid could hit the computers. There's no guarantees here, and I don't have a crystal ball. But here's some of the more realistic risks I see in GTII. Roger James Hamilton has moved forward with West Christian. He's moved forward with Upstream. He's stepping to the front of the line with the marching band. And maybe it's because he's got more money to spend. Maybe it's his British accent. Maybe it's the way he walks. I don't know. But he's moving to the front of everything. Great. But not everybody has time. So what's happened? GTII isn't there. But we're coming. GTI's coming. I have a concern. I'm just admitting to you, Janice. I'm concerned that since GTI was the first mover, although Hamilton will say it was he, but it was really GTII. Now, whether the press releases, you'd have to go look. Maybe they're 2 weeks apart. But let me just tell you, it was introduced to Hamilton after GTII. But I'm concerned that the Upstream dual listing may or may not happen. I'm just going to be frank. The more time that goes by, I'm concerned with that. Does it matter? I don't think it really matters. As Jeremy so eloquently put it on his Twitter, what does GTII have? Well, thanks. Thank you for that. He explained it on his space call that he just asked you to do your own due diligence and figure it out. But I think we all know what he meant. Well, the flip side of that is he's impressed with what he has at CRTD. Let me tell you, I've raised a lot of money in my life. CRTD doesn't have anything unless people finance it. It'll all go to zero. They'll short it to oblivion. And the companies are a dime a dozen that have ideas on NFT and they have a great IP and they're going to do this, going to do that, and they have some assets that might sell, and they have a staff of 17. All CRTD, and I'm not trying to be critical, by the way. I believe in CRTD and I believe in Jeremy, but I think he has a blind spot here. He has a burn rate. He has 17 people working for him. So the criminals know that CRTD needs to raise money. What are they going to do? They're going to sell. That's what they do. That's all they do. So then you're going to turn to the criminals, which, by the way, Jeremy believes that Jeff Easton, he said it, I'm just quoting him, Kurt Kramer are not smart enough to create 300 and 400 million counterfeit shares. He has a blind spot because these guys smile at him, take his phone calls, and they can debate with him. So he has a blind spot. So let me just tell you, you can turn that question around to CRTD. What does CRTD have? An idea? Yes. They've got smart management? Yes. But they don't maybe have enough capital. And they sign some of these crappy deals. So I can't tell you how many people in the world in my life I've helped make rich, but I've also seen other people with a similar idea never get funded, and they're driving a taxi cab. Ideas, schmideas. IP, schmy IP. I can tell you, I have a friend who I raised money for, has earlier than Facebook, has the identical intellectual property, and they didn't patent it all because they didn't want to lose it. Identical. Smart guy, still wealthy, but he can't go watch the movie about Facebook. And my investors didn't get their money back. They're trying to do something, license it. The point is, Jeremy doesn't have anything unless he's funded and unless he's a first mover. You have to be the first mover. You have to claim the space. And there's all sorts of intricacies that I won't claim to understand that Jeremy has to do. And he's making his best effort. I'm not criticizing him because I think he's making the best decisions he can. But you can say the same negative thing about CRTD that he said about GTII. What do they have? Look, what the criminals want, the whole strength of the over-the-counter markets in America, what made America great, you could have an idea and you could pitch it and pitch it and pitch it and pitch it. And eventually so many people are believing it that you're like, I'll use an example in the news. You're like Tesla, unproven, great dreams, and it runs way up, and Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. Well, he can afford to buy Twitter because his stock price is overpriced. You get, because of what you're doing and because of what the world gives you credit for, you get to use your stock as currency to acquire properties, to acquire other companies, to acquire talent. So if CRTD or GTII, let's use that, GTII goes to $50 in a squeeze and then settles at $20 and that's it. Maybe that's all she wrote. They can use that stock to go acquire CRTD for all that matter. The point is, the markets have destroyed the ability for CEOs to do anything good. Just like the public discourse is destroying the future for young white straight men. They're no good. So they're alone. No one wants to date them. Where's the economic future in that? Anyway, I got off track. So Janice, GTII got a body blow on Friday, and then the criminals sold it down for the last day of the month to paint the tape. It's all illegal. But nothing changed with GTII. GTI has a lot going for it. It's got a dedicated group of investors. It's got the West Christian lawsuit, which is going to come. It's got the 1-800 law firms, which they announced should come. And you can discount it. It's got, I believe, a $40 billion, with a B, Treno lithium mine deal coming. And I think it's coming really soon. But that's a prediction, not a promise. It's got 4 or 5 special dividends lined up. And the special dividend we did with the warrant was working. The evidence is there. We just didn't wait enough at Thanksgiving. So those are all good. The company has $3 million in the bank and a very small burn rate. They don't have to go make a deal with Jeff Archer or Jeremy Kramer. They don't have to do it. The FBI is after maybe the same criminal that's been selling the shares. That's coming. So, Janice, my feeling on GTI, same story. You can get out. They can drive it down more, maybe. But it's a stupid criminal short sale or normal short sale from here. There's no money to be made. When a stock goes to $6, $7, like GNS, or goes to post-split, reverse split, $24, $26 on GNS, there's plenty of room to climb it back down. But at 156, they would sell it down, and they're taking infinite risk. So my opinion of GTII, it's the best setup out there. I think it has the potential to be your first investment that hits a home run, Janice. GTII. Make sure your GTC orders are in. But neck and neck, Janice, I think MMTLP has a chance to be your reward before March 31st. Now, that may be as simple as an announcement of what's going to happen, but I think they will try to resolve it before March 31st. I might be being too hopeful. So, Janet, those are my long-winded answers, but I think CRTD had a heart attack, and it's not getting up out of the hospital anytime soon, but I don't think the patient's dead. They can rebuild it, make him stronger, and it could become the 6 million, it could become Lee Majors. I am not giving up on CRTD. I'm not going to go through it again, but I think there's some strategies, and it can still short squeeze. But you're dealing with a CEO who has a real blind spot. He blames the failure to delivers on the computers. Well, he might know that better than I do, but I think in the over-the-counter market, that's not the answer. But I don't know. I really, I mean it seriously. I'm not being a jerk. I don't know. He does know. But CRTD, I think, is a broken trade. You have to make a new decision. I described it. I'm not going to do it again. GTII, I think, is on the verge because of the FBI and because of the pending lawsuit. They're going to put the pressure back on. But if those don't do it, it'll be the distributions of the special dividends, hopefully on upstream. I'm alarmed with how the breakup happened, how close everybody is. They're all in the same knitting. Each of these CEOs, Roger James Hamilton, Jeremy Frommer, all these CEOs, they want you. They want the money they can get with you. So it's COSM already took 40 million from you. So to me, there's a risk that GTII doesn't get its dual listing. I don't think it's going to matter because the special distribution, but I could be wrong. It could have, I give it 50-50. But the dividend that was distributed as a special warrant as a special dividend was working without upstream. And there's plenty other ways to skin the cat. So I'm really hopeful that GTII not only goes to the number that one of the gentlemen here keeps saying, $18, $20, $22 in the next breakout. And I'm not going to, I've gone on too long, but the chart is a parallelogram. And the next one is $4 or $5 a share. It breaks out from there. I think it does go to $18, $21. And it can break out and you get your short squeeze in GTII. On MMTLP, you can't do anything anyway. But all the news is lining up good. The system has to buy back everything. They have to honor every ticket. You're going to make money in my judgment. So, Janice, that's a long answer. I hope I didn't bore you, and I hope I did a thorough job on the 3 stocks you asked me to talk about. Everybody else is now talking about football because March is the first quarter. That's exactly right, Jeff. Wall Street Wolfie, we were sold these tickers very hard. You weren't sold them hard? Wall Street Wolfie, let me say it in retrospect, now and in the future. I have always said, if you're coming in to GTII as a short squeeze, here are the reasons. I'm not selling it very hard. I'm not Diamond Hands. Wall Street Wolfie, sell your shares of GTII. I cannot give you specific financial advice. Call your broker, talk to her about it. But my gut instinct is just sell it, move on. You can make a lot of money in Apple. You're the kind of guy that can do that. Or be like Jeff Easton. Day trade Yahoo for 9 months. You're that kind of guy. Go do it. I'm not telling you. I'm not trying to sell you hard on it. And Wall Street Wolfie, GTII was on the verge of squeezing, and you can't prove me wrong. I can't prove you wrong either. That's the problem. But Fidelity was paying 1,000% for shares because of the warrant at 275 before COSM came in and said, hey, looky over here. I got a bit prettier skirt. I got better bells. So don't blame it. You blame it on whoever you want. But just assign some of the reasons to why the reasons are, instead of, we were sold very hard on all these stocks. Wall Street flimsy. I don't know. I don't know if you're real or not, but I assume I'm talking with adults. If you can't make your own decisions and take responsibility for them, I really recommend, I'm sure there's a new mutual fund coming out with an 8.5% sales charge in it at any of the top brokerage firms. They're probably designed around real estate or Bitcoin or some sort of hedging. There might be an ETF that you can get into, but Wall Street Wolfie, that's where you belong. Don't let somebody like me sell you very hard. I sold you very hard. What even does that mean? What even Wall Street? I assume you're a man. What does that even mean? Sold me very hard. You can't get up from the table and walk away? You can't do your own due diligence? Well, I was sold very hard, so I put the gun in my mouth and pulled the trigger. Yeah, I was sold very hard, and it seemed like a good idea to jump off the 80th floor of the building with everyone else. I was sold very hard, and it seemed like a good idea to go examine the inner chambers of Chernobyl without a suit on. I was sold very hard. It seemed like a good idea to pick up heroin and inject it into my veins. You don't know how ridiculous you sound, Wall Street Wolfie. It was Lou was contacted by Fidelity. He said that himself. Lion of the week. You don't know how I feel so drained. I can't blame you. And Lion, it's been for me a little over 2 year anniversary. And Lion, I'll be honest with you. Even last night, when I couldn't sleep, I really am running through my head. Why am I still doing this? Should I just sell it and get on with life? And there was a woman on here. I don't know if she was real or a Memorex, but she said, I sold 100,000 shares in each of these. I'm closing my account and I'm going to stop listening to you. And you need help with your gambling problem. I remember that. And I question, am I doing this because I have some sort of fixation or gambling or something like that? And that's all the emotions they try to get you to. And you're right, Lion. They want you to feel this way, and it goes on and on. Remember, they're cold. They're machines. They sell. It's what they do. It's all they do. But they do it in many stocks. They, unlike they have, Kurt Kramer has probably killed 100 stocks that I've found. Does he care? No, he doesn't care. He's entitled to that money. And at the end of the day, they want us to quit. For me, I'm stubborn. For me, when I write down the reasons to be in it, they're the same. For me, I do have faith in him. And for me, particularly in the case of GTII, I've seen no evidence that they're going to make decisions that make you scratch your head like Jeremy. Not that Jeremy made a bad decision. Not that, everybody's got to make their own decisions. And I wish everyone well. But I've admitted, Lion, there's a couple things about GTII I'm concerned about. I do not have 100% confidence that we're going to hear about a dual listing on Upstream anytime soon. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, I thought it could happen last week. Now I'm feeling like, why isn't that happening? That's just me. That's just me. That's about it. That's about my only concern in GTII. I think the distributions of the special dividends in GTII, they don't have to go on Upstream. They could happen the way the warrant did. I really believe 1-800 is going to happen, but it maybe not. I do have high confidence in the Trento mine exciting us, but these are predictions, not promises. But this FBI thing, man. I don't think, Justice, they're going to pull the rug under GTII. Thank you, Lion. One thing about you, Lion, that I've picked up is you tend to, there's no tend to. You say what you think and stand by it, and I appreciate it. Well, there you go, Robert Capecchi. I love that. I love when GTI drops, I buy more. It always goes back up. I kind of hate it, Robert, because I haven't traded it well. Clearly, in retrospect, there were opportunities to sell and buy back. All right, Nick Jeff, my question is, if you don't believe in the stock that you're in, sell off. Yeah. One of the problems, Nick, it's not really a dilemma. It's not really a dichotomy. Conundrum might be it's not really even a conundrum. It's the yin and the yang of the investment. Starlight. Afternoon delight. Yeah, I think that's right, Ben 07. I'm not going to read it out. Robert 1, we can talk about that. You've lived in the Middle East. And by the way, Robert, I'm thinking, I can't do it right away. I hope it's many years from now. But if Lucky were to die, I'm thinking of Puerto Rico, London, or Dubai. And I'm open to other places, but I'm thinking of moving. And the one thing about Dubai is it was different, Robert. I went to Dubai with my friends when Sheikh Khalid Road was 2 lanes and it turned to dirt. And my friend, I was in the back seat of his Aston Martin, and convertible top down, and he was speeding. And I went to these parties with Haptour, they just absolutely magnificent parties. But guess what? I was the American. I was actually everyone was polite, but all the beautiful women were not coming over to the American. But since then, they've put in the metro. For some reason, they didn't build underground or build it up in case the waters rise. But anyway, it's turned into traffic jam city. And there's an aspect of loneliness to it now that you have to factor in. And you're on the other side of the world. But there's a lot of positives about there too. Anyway, Robert, we can talk about it on another call. Steve Raven, lion of all trades, calm down, bruh. All right, I hope I calm down. That's the risk with these calls. You end up seeing that I'm no good. I told you that I'm no good. I cheated myself. And then you see the lickle carpet burn. When's the 20 million buy? I don't know. It's 19 million, not 20 million. But yeah, text me. I know I'm not, it gets so confusing, but we can talk over the phone, I think. Puerto Rico is really appealing, but the prices are so high. The SEC really, David Nunes, Fox News talks about how corrupt Gary Gensler is. Wow, Steve J., I'll look for that. Steam Benji, I didn't say anything. Anyway, peace. Dubai's expensive. Puerto Rico's not cheap. And by the way, for all of you guys, if you price your wealth in dollars, a lot of things are going to get expensive. But let's just get one of these deals to work. Let's just get one of these deals to work. All right, what time is it? 6:11. I'll go 7:30 he's on. Okay, Busy Brands. Busy Brands, 7:30, I'll go on. I wasn't invited, or maybe I was. Busy Brands usually invites me. So what I might do is end in 15 minutes or so, or sooner. I got to walk my dog, and I'll try to get on that call and listen to the hamster. And maybe I've spent your ears out already. Panama. You know Nick Jeff? A man, write this down, Nick Jeff, or somebody else. A man, a plan, Panama. No, it's a man, a plan, a canal, Panama. A man, a plan, a canal, Panama. Write it down and read it backwards. No, I think it's a canal, a man, a plan. I got to look it up. Anyway, you get it. A man, a plan, a canal, Panama. A man, a plan, a canal, Panama. I think that's right. A man, a plan, a canal, Panama. Write it down, read it backwards. Hey, I like that, Herman Hartner. I might need that. I wish I had traded the way you guys did trade. Well, Travis M., it seems like the hedgies have more confidence the longer MMTLP remains in limbo, but I'm not sure you're reading the leaves right. That's $1 trillion problem. I don't know. You might be right, though. Oh, Tom McCartney. By the way, when I first got in GTII, there was nothing going for it except the potential of a short squeeze. There were one or two things. So you could argue that it's like Jeremy did, what does it have? But I think what Ham says is true. The fundamentals don't matter. It's the trapped short. But Tom, I think this time, Tom, the criminals may have helped organize the break in the stock back in Thanksgiving. We don't know how far and how extensive, but they were losing a lot of money. Anything's possible. And they certainly paid to have it destroyed in December and in January. One of the reasons they do that, Tom, is to get you to say, "Oh, I'm losing my money. Oh, this is horrible. This is terrible." So one of the things they want you to do is sell. If it goes back, well, they want you to sell right now. But if it goes back to your price, you just sell and get out of it. And I'm not going to tell you not to do that. The other thing they want is you to take short profits. I don't know what word to use. They don't want you to let your profits run. They just want you to get out. Well, I actually think if the squeeze comes, it's not going to matter what any of us do. Other people will come in playing it. But the advice I have, I guess, is I think the next time it runs, it may be the last time. I don't know. Oh. This may be the last time. It might be the last time. So that, you guys, it's your call. To me, anything that makes GTII go to $21 will make it go to $210 or $2,100. But it seems also that there's powerful forces aligned against, and it always seems like there's some reason to sell it off. So I'm going to come down in the middle. I think going up this time, you have to use your best money management to take some of your money off the table. So at least you have a winning trade, even if it round trips. So if you want my brackets, I don't know. I have no idea what a bracket is. So I'm not going to even pretend to know. I think from $1.49, $1.39, they could still try to sell it down. I don't think they're going to have much luck. And the lower it goes, people like, I forget the gentleman's name, are going to come in and buy. But worst case on the downside, maybe they can get it back down to 80 cents or something. I don't see it happening, but you got to admit there's downside. I think when the stock gets to 4, 5, 6, there's going to be some selling. 4, 5, 6, 7, something in that range. How much, I don't know. But I think there's going to be people that just are sick of it. I think there's going to be new short sellers that come in just for the trade. But I don't expect that selling, Tom, to be enough to stop the upside. And as the stock goes to 13, 15, 21, I think there'll be those new short sellers will start covering, and there could be a snowball effect. So, in my opinion, you do not, let's say you have 10,000 shares, and let's say you spent $5 for it. So you spent $50,000. I don't think you have to sell 50% of your stock. You bought 10,000 shares at $5. If it goes to $10, I don't think you have to sell 5,000 shares to take your money off your table and then ride with the rest. But some people would say that's the conservative thing to do, and I can't give you specific advice. But to me, if you bought 10,000 shares at a cost basis of $5 and the stock starts breaking out, and I don't know anything about your personal situation, so I can't give personal advice. I think, and there's so many permutations of this, I'm just going to extremes. I think if you have 10,000 shares and you paid $5, you have 50 grand in the investment, in the trade. I think you can sell 1,000 shares at $50 to take your 50 grand off the table and let the rest run higher. That's what I think. But pick your own numbers, pick your own targets. Once the buy-ins happen, the Kramers won't be able to stop it. Yeah, new shorting will drive it. New shorting and then buying it back in and it'll become a furnace. Yeah, that's right, Line. The longer we hold, the more it hurts them. I also think Lion and Tom, I think as much grief as I constantly go back and talk about what might have happened in Thanksgiving-ish time, the fact is, by their continued efforts to counterfeit, the stock is down. They sold another, 100 million shares. So it's worse. So the trigger point for a squeeze might be a lower price. Well, Brian Moss asks, will the FBI give the shorts a certain time frame to close before being liquidated, or will they just liquidate immediately? FBI won't liquidate diddly squat. Pay me when you can, Josie Wales. FBI won't liquidate. They won't go into the brokerage firms. The FBI will arrest the malefactor. They'll arrest, what do they call them on those shows? The perp. They'll arrest the perpetrator. Chris Daniel, GTII will hit 22 on the algos if they cover running to 80 easily. Can't contradict that. New court case filed for MMTLP by run by RE Securities. Wow. All right, I'll look in. We'll all have to look on that. I'm going to stop in 8 minutes. My TD broker was questioning my GTC orders. I can't find that one again. He was like, are you sure you want a GT sword at 145? Sure you do. Sure you do. Why are you in it? Right? Are we in it for all this pain so we get out at $10? It doesn't mean we're going to get out at 105, but why not? Why not? Go for it. Dan A, if you ask, Dan A asked, Bill, can you see GTI at $50 with ease? If you ask at the end of that question in a buy-in or in a squeeze, I can see it at 500 with these, 500 with these. in a squeeze. There's no reason for GTII on its own to go to $50. Actually, the lithium mine, it could be. But in a squeeze, I think $50, yes is my answer, Dan. I think it'll go to 50 very easily. But remember, it's just a prediction, not a promise. I don't know. The way I would find it, Stony Bones, is Twitter MMTLP. That's what I'm going to guess. It'll be under MMTLP. What I can do, Stony Bones, is when I find it, I can take a picture of it and put it up on my Twitter, maybe. But I think it'll be under MMTLP, and it'll come across the top. Brian Moss, how long would it take to cover all the naked shorts? May I borrow your towel? I think it'll go on for about 2 to 4 weeks. But I think the massive rally, if it happens, will take anywhere from an afternoon to 2.5 days. Jillian Daly. Well, I love that. Daily Jillian says, I love your chats. You are awesome giving back your knowledge and experience. I'm a semi-retired chief medical scientist. Wow. That's really something. And there's so many questions. I'd love to, so much to talk about there, from our DNA to radiation to, I can't say it, the recent, so much, to what looks like we're going to have a decline in population, anyway, there's so much to ask. I would love to, but anyway, and I am going back to younger people, but I'm also learning from you. That's great that you say that, and even though I don't feel prepared for it, I'm recognizing that most of the people I looked up to were either doddering around or dead. And what time in my life, I read somewhere, and it might have been in that book by, it's a brown book, and it's called something Man. It was popular about 8, 10, 15 years ago. I can't remember it right now. But anyway, there's 4 roles for a man. A straight man, at least, I guess. I don't know, it's all confusing. But just to be simplistic, for a man provides, protects, teaches, or mentors. Provide, protects. I'm forgetting the 4th one. Provides, protects, mentors. Leads. I think leads is the other one. But anyway, I think that's kind of our role, isn't it now? To try to mentor a little bit. And I'd tell you, if you're doing it, I'd sign into your channel and I'd listen all the time. And you have so much to offer to people, much more than what I have. The reason it seems like I have knowledge and it seems like I have experience is Wall Street has befuddled everyone. Look up befuddled, bemused, and figure out the meanings of those words. But anyway, if you had been treated to the information all along and they hadn't tried to obfuscate it, there'd be no need for me. But yeah, that's really I think it is. They lead, protect, provide, and mentor. I think that's it. But the book was written by a man for men, so and it wasn't leaving out women either. It was just, anyway, it's too complicated. Taxi, I never watched Taxi, but I did just watch a movie with DeVito in it called, is it possible it's called Other People's Money? Anyway, he's a banker. It fits our story totally. And he was really good. He was funny. All right. One more minute. Jackson 07, just be realistic. I hope GTII moves up. Well, Jackson, what do you mean by that? Realistic. Is it realistic that we have to allow criminals to sell 325 million shares that do not exist and then not think to ourselves, realistic, I'm going to be realistic, Jackson. If a buy-in happens, I'm going to just be realistic, Jackson. I'm going to be realistic. Man, let's just be realistic. When the buy-in happens, there's 325 million shares stuffed in brokerage accounts, and the compliance officer says, we got to buy all of this in. But I'm going to be realistic with you, Jackson. When it happens, they're going to stop at 1% of that buy-in. Realistically, compliance is going to tell them to buy it all back. But I think you're right. They'll just stop at buying 32 million shares back, 10% of it. And I think that's more realistic, Jackson. Just be realistic. Yep, you got me thinking. The system decides that they have to buy back all these shares. And in the emotions and the trading and the shorting and day trading and the buybacks, yeah, I think you're right. The more I think about it, Jackson, it's more realistic to think that if there's a buy-in, they'll just stop it before they're done. And they'll probably just stop it at, 1 or 2 million shares. And so if the stock goes up a little bit, just get out, because be realistic. I started to say before, and I'm not speaking to Jackson now, I'm speaking to whoever asked it, but we have a yin and a yang on this trade. The reason to be in this trade is because criminals that have the imagination of a toad just hit the sell button and they counterfeit shares. And they have the internal morality of a serial killer. They just hit the sell button and they hit the sell button. So the whole thesis, the whole story, the whole premise to own GTII, right from the get-go, you had a trapped short who had counterfeited something like 40 to 60 million shares with management that bought back the toxic note, with management that's working for you, with you anyway, And the whole premise was there's going to be a short squeeze at 40 or 50 million shares. And the float was really small. Since then, management has done A, B, C, D. You, my Chinese client, you're not ABC person. You're not I, B, C, D, E. You're not ABC person. Anyway, they did A, B, C, D, E, F of all sorts of things to fight the criminals. But on the one hand, the whole argument is the reason to buy in this is because there's trapped criminals that have been doing this for 20 years. All they do is sell counterfeit shares, and we've got them. The company bought back the note. We got them. 40 million, 50 million shares. Well, what did the criminals do? They kept selling. So we said, we revisited our thoughts. Well, they're just doing it more and more. There's no shares against it. The company's not going to give them shares. This is unbelievable. These guys are they're the walking dead. So on the one hand, you've got a story where you've got one idiot short, nobody on Wall Street would do this trade, continues to manufacture shares through Alpine. We didn't know it was Alpine. We didn't even know the name of the short. Now we know who the short is. Now we know it's Alpine. Now we know the FBI's after him. Now we know this, and this. We didn't have 1-800 and all that. But the behavior of Kurt Kramer, Seth Kramer, Charlie Mayo is to bring in their victims, lie to them, and then just kill the stock. So on the one hand, that's the reason to get into the stock. That's the reason to get into it. And now, people like this, just be realistic. The reason to get out and to get worried is Kramer keeps shooting himself in the foot. He keeps selling more counterfeit shares. Well, you're asking, it's like the bungee cord when you jump off of it. You're asking an estimate for how far the bungee cord is going to go down at its maximum before it snaps back. And guess what? Every now and then people get it wrong. When you're saying Kurt Kramer hasn't stopped selling, he obviously isn't stopping selling. Therefore, he's always going to be able to sell. Well, then get out of the stock. But on the other hand, if the reason you got in it is that Kurt Kramer is so upside down that at some point Wall Street has to buy back all these shares, when it was 50 million shares, when it was 75 million shares, when it was 100, when it was 125 million, he's done 125 million in the last 3 months. You gotta pick one or the other. You can't walk through this world with, when I was young, my dad told me, my dad went to Mount St. Mary's. He almost became a priest. And he told me that back then, things were different. And it was all men. And it's a good school up in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Beautiful school. And on the dorms, as you may well imagine, like firemen, like policemen, priests have a lot of Irish and a lot of Italians. And he said late at night, after curfew, someone would open the door and yell, "You fuck." You can finish the sentence. WOPs, you blankety blank WOPs, and slam the door. And someone else would yell it out. And then at the other end of the hall, someone else would yell, "You blanking MCs. you pronounce it mix. So he said, then for the next 2 hours, the doors would be going mick, wop, mick, wop, mick, wop, mick, wop. And guess what? I got both of those genes in me. I've got Irish and Italian and Lithuanian. And probably one other thing, but they don't know. So anyway, you can't go through life with your head going mick wop, mick wop, mick wop, mick wop, mick wop. The reason I'm in it is because it's short and they're going to buy it back, and it's one trap short, and the one trap short is going to get squeezed and it's going to go to $100. Oh no, I shouldn't be in it because there's a trap short and he keeps doing what he does. He keeps selling more counterfeit shares. I pity the fool that's walking through the world with that going on in his or her head. You got to pick a side. And if you can't pick a side, get out of the stock or lessen, lower your position. Own less of it if you're losing your mind. Sell some off. What if someone's Jewish in this scenario? He ran the book to see who won the battle. He ran the betting book. I don't know. Back then, it was a long time ago. I don't think a Jewish guy would go to a college to study to become a priest. I don't think there were many Jewish guys on the hall. But it's all different now. You know, I'm sure there are now. I mean, it's a long time ago. And I think it's funny, but in today's woke world, it's too sensitive, I guess. I can't find the one, so I'll use this one.
The time displacement equipment?
That's right. The Terminator had already gone through. Connor sent me to intercept, and they blew the whole place.
How are you supposed to get back?
I can't. Nobody goes home. Nobody else comes through. It's just him and me.
It's just him and me. Why didn't you bring any weapons? Something more advanced? Don't you have ray guns?
Ray guns?
Show me a piece of future technology.
You go naked.
I love that Clark Barwick.
Field generated by a living organism. Nothing dead will go.
I didn't build a fucking thing.
Okay. But this cyborg, if it's metal...
Surrounded by living tissue.
Oh, right.
This is great stuff. I could make a career out of this guy.
You see how clever this part is? How it doesn't require a shred of proof? And most paranoid illusions are intricate, but this is brilliant. Why were the other two women killed?
Most of the records were lost in the war. Skynet knew almost nothing about Connor's mother. Her full name, where she lived. They just knew the city. The Terminator was just being systematic.
Well, let's go back to one other
Look,
thing.
you have heard enough. I have answered your question. Now I have to see Sarah Connor.
I'm afraid that's not up to me.
Why am I talking to you?
Because I
Who is
felt-
an authority here? Shut up! You still don't get it, do you? He'll find her. That's what he does. That's all he does. You can't stop him. He'll wait for you, reach down her throat, and pull her fucking heart out.
That's all he does. That's all they do. I like this. I want to read this to you. Sway says, see, William just said it again. You don't like the reason you're in the stock, get out. I couldn't say it better. I take so long to say what you said in a second, Sway. And I like this, Clark Barwick. Ain't no fun waiting around to be a millionaire. From AC/DC. I like that. I'm not saying to the moon. Look, I'm not telling you to wait for big numbers either. I'm not telling you to wait for big numbers. The biggest reason I give you the big numbers is because I think if you put GTC orders out there, they'll hit off. All right, it's 6:44. I'll get 1 minute more and I got to go walk Lucky and then I'm going to get on this call, I guess, if I can. I don't know if I'm invited. And when this turns 6:45, I'm going to hang up. And I'm not sure that I'm adding value. I found that, I found that material things I thought had so much value didn't have any value at all without someone to love me for me. However, however, he'd say. We don't have phones anymore, but he'd hold his phone like this. He'd talk into his phone. He was a great guy. He is a great guy. Justice. So you're saying there's a chance. You're saying I have a chance. You're saying I have a chance. It's all he does. It's what he does. I forgot now how he said it. It's what he does. It's all he does. All right, 6:45. I'm going to go walk my puppy dog. Always a chance. Look, guys, I don't mean to minimize this. It's been crap being in it. I really thought we were going to go in November, December. Anyway, I'm not meaning to be dismissive, and I'd love to get on with my life too. So, Anyway, all right. I'm going to say Buenos Aires, and we'll see you later on down the road. What if all these stocks are under one? I don't think we'll run them all, but we'll get some done. Let's not dread the past. That's good. And the point is, what I really mean, those are the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen. Yeah, they need our shares. Exactly. Exactly. And they're going to go up. Who says this? Justin McAllister. Exactly. They need our shares. All right, Anthony, Lion thing, you're free again. All right, more to be revealed.